Hi, my name is Gerhard Gschwandtner. Welcome to Selling Power's Daily Report. And today we are going to continue our conversation with Chris Howard. Chris, let's dig in a little bit deeper. Can you give us a specific example on how to break out and how to get in touch with our true possibilities?
Well, what I can do is tell you about the story of Phil Anderson. And Phil Anderson was, he's Australian, he's former Mr. Australia, so he had some success in that field. But when he came to me, he was managing a health club. And he said, Chris, he says, I'm in this health club, and he says, I'm managing it. And he said, I'm so stuck, he said, because I can't see getting out of the day-to-day operations of the club to do what I'd really love to do. He said, I'd love to be educating young people, showing teenagers how to take control of their lives. And he said, and so there's so much that I want to do, but I can't see getting out of this stuck place that I'm in. And so he, like we mentioned yesterday, was boxed in by the boundary conditions of his thinking. And so one of the things that we did was he came in and he did several programs with us, and we gave him coaching and mentoring. And what he did was he modeled billionaire mindsets using some of the techniques that we talk about in our book and our programs. And he saturated himself in the mindsets of Trump and Gates and Buffett. And he actually came to see me a year later, and he said, Chris, I've got to see you. He says, I got to tell you the news. He said, now I bought a house in the country. He said, my relationship with my wife is spectacular because I have more time to spend with her. He said, and what's happened is I've stepped outside of the health club. And he said, and I did a real estate deal, modeling a strategy of Donald Trump's. He said, I made $600,000 in a single day. Then he came back to me, he was so impressed with this, he came back to me a year later, found me, somehow he got backstage at a program I was doing. He said, Chris, he says, you're not going to believe this now. He says, now I own 4 health clubs, and he says, and I'm looking to buy more. I said, really? Now this is just 2 years from the time where he said he couldn't get it out of the box. I said, really? I said, you own 4? He said, yeah. He says, here's my criteria for purchasing a health club. He said, they have to give it to me. I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, there's so many people that have no clue how to run health clubs. He said, I know how to run them, so I'll just take them off their hands, but they got to give them to me. So he says, I pay nothing for these. He says, I'm just taking over health clubs, just taking a storm. Now, his thinking was precluded from this before. He was, like I said, boxed in, but as he began to expand his imagination, take his mind to places he had never been before, he started to see things open up on the playing field of life in terms of possibilities. Came back to me a year later. He said, Chris, he said, I'm 30, I think he was 36 years old. He said, I'm retiring in November. I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, I realized that I can't do everything I want to do unless I step out completely. He says, so the health clubs, I've got everybody in place to run them. He says, we're still buying more health clubs. He said, but I'm just going to show up for the occasional board meeting. And now he's branded himself as Aussie Phil, and he's out teaching kids. He's telling them, if you can do it, or if I can do it, you can do it. That to me is a perfect example of how when you start to stretch your mind and start to expand and start to look for new strategies to drive your business and your life forward, your whole world can change in the flash of an eye. I'm real proud of what Phil's done, but I'm proud of what all the people that come in and experience these technologies do with them.
So the basic technology that you have introduced is imprinting the successful patterns of ultra-successful people in their minds.
Right.
So they empower themselves to look at situations a little bit differently than they have been before, and then they get in touch with their true potential. But what about the fears that people experience that is involved in change? Any change is related to fear. How do you break through that?
Well, I think part of it is just reframing that change and fear are associated, because they can be, if we've connected that at the unconscious level, that could be our experience of life. But when we begin to reassociate and we realize that change it can be exciting, change can be exhilarating, change is what's necessary to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. I mean, that necessitates change. So what change really means is if you're doing it in the right ways, it means growth, it means more opportunity, it means more money, it means taking less time to make it, it means having better relationships and more fulfillment in general. And when we really get that that's what change means, then the whole process becomes exciting and exhilarating rather than a fearful process. When people put the right frames on their life, then they realize that it's just this adventure that we're on, and hey, we're reacting, and not achieving one goal isn't what's important. It's who you become in the process of achieving your goals. It's how you live your life in the process of achieving your goals, and that's where the true magic of the journey comes out.
So you're really teaching people more of who they really are.
I think so.
Well, this is for Selling Power Daily Report with Chris Howard, and tomorrow we'll continue our conversation on leadership.